والليل سجى من وفرته. الله الله الله. Muhammad, peace be upon his soul. The greatest of prophets, Islam was his only goal.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I'd like to welcome you, dear viewers, to another in this series, Pearls of the Prophet. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you. And in this segment, we'll be looking at the quality of mercy and kindness, which is essential in the life of each and every one of us. صلى الله عليه وسلم من نفس عن مؤمن كربة من كرب الدنيا نفس الله عنه كربة من كرب يوم القيامة. رواه Muslim. Abu Huraira related that the Messenger of Allah said, Allah will remove one of the calamities of the Day of Judgment from whoever removes from a believer one of the calamities of this world, collected by a Muslim. Each and every one of us knows that when we stand before God on the Day of Judgment, we will have a scale of evil deeds that we would prefer not to have. That being confronted by those evil deeds will be for us a calamity on that day. And we would love that Allah would remove from us some of the evil, if not all, which we will have to face on that day. The Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, has shown us the way to remove from ourselves that evil. He pointed out that it may be removed if we in this life seek to remove from our fellow human beings calamities, some of the calamities of this life. That if we seek the mercy of God, we ourselves must show mercy. To deserve God's mercy, we must ourselves be merciful. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ sought to develop in us this quality of mercy towards others by linking it to our own desire to seek or to find the mercy of God on the Day of Judgment. Allah emphasizes the concept of mercy in His own attributes, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, the most merciful, the beneficent, the most kind, the one who sets aside special mercies for those who believe, but yet is merciful to all of mankind, believers as well as disbelievers. This is the mercy of God. This is the qualities, the attributes of God. Human beings, of course, as human beings, we're not capable or able to express in our own God. However, we can express some aspect of it, that we in our daily lives should show mercy to others. This is a basic principle. Society cannot function if there is no mercy. That we should be merciful to others, whether it's the mother merciful to the child, whether it is the man merciful to those who is in authority over, whether it is in general in the society, the quality of mercy amongst all, whether there are children in school, whether there are adults in any walk of life. That quality of mercy must be there for society to be healthy. When the quality of mercy is gone, then we find mothers killing their children. How many cases we read about in the newspaper? We read about parents who would kill their own children. Societies where they're limited to how many children they can have. Places like China where people are only allowed to have one child. They may kill the other children. Girls, they want boys, they kill the girls. Societies like India, where girls are a burden. This is dowry that has to be paid for them, these huge monies, and so the girls are liabilities. We have patterns in a number of the states, number of the parts of the country where there is an imbalance, where the men now outnumber the women because so many girls have been killed at birth. It's evil. The quality of mercy is lost. When society loses that quality, then it turns on the weakest members and it harms them. So it's very important for that quality to be there in the society. So Islam encourages these principles of mercy. And if we want the mercy of God, then we must ourselves be merciful. On one occasion, a companion of the Prophet came and he observed the Prophet kissing his grandchildren, Hassan and Hussein. And he remarked to another companion, I have 10 children and I have never kissed any of them. You know, he felt that this is a form of manliness, you know, to show his manliness. Kissing this is like effeminate women. When the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, heard the man say that, he turned to him angrily and said, Allah will not show mercy to those who are not merciful. This is a sense of mercy here, an expression of mercy, of kindness, of care, of love. These are all aspects of mercy. And it should be there between parent and child. If it is not there, then the child grows up unmerciful, is capable of doing evil in the society because he doesn't have a sense of care and sympathy and concern for others. So Islam tries to engender in the society this concept of mercy. And the example which the Prophet gave, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, that of removing calamities. Because in this society, in this world, calamities are always befalling people. And we hear about it, we know about it. We hear about it in different parts of the world. We know about it in our own neighborhood. Calamities befall people. We are enjoined to help those who are in need in the society. Charity, kindness, support for those who need help. In that way, we deserve the mercy of God. But as I said, dear viewers, fundamentally, the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, is laying down for us the importance of mercy in society. Mercy on all levels of society. However, there are extremes to which people may go, considering it to be merciful. What we now know as mercy killing. where some individuals help others to commit suicide, feeling that this is more merciful for them because they're in pain or they feel that their lives are now meaningless. You know, they've got some sickness here or the other, you know. So let them die, let them commit suicide. Why stop them? They have the right to take their own lives. You know, this is being merciful to them. No. This is evil. It's called mercy killing, but it is evil. It's corruption in society. Suicide is evil. It is a state where a person has given up on God, has blamed God for what his situation is, has not recognized and understood the purpose of life, has felt there is no more value in living. No. As long as we're able to do good in this life, we should try to do as much as we can. None of us can say we have done enough. I'm ready to die now, finish. No. If we reflect on our lives, so much wrong we have done. We should try to do good until the last moment. So, dear viewers, we all need the mercy of God. For us to deserve that mercy, we should show mercy. Mercy comes to those who deserve it on the day of judgment. In this life, Allah is merciful to those who deserve it as well as those who do not. But on the day of judgment, the mercy of God will only be for those who deserve it. So let us try to earn for ourselves the mercy of God on the day of judgment by being in this life merciful to others. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I'd like to welcome you to another in the series, Pearls of the Prophet. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace and blessings be on all of you, dear viewers. In this segment, we'll be looking at something which the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, has informed us. عن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن الله تجاوز لي عن أمتي الخطأ والنسيان وما استكرهوا عليه رواه ابن ماجه. Ibn Abbas related that the Messenger of Allah said, Allah has forgiven for me my followers' accidental mistakes, their forgetfulness, and what they were forced to do. Collected by Ibn Majah. In this piece of advice, Allah has informed us through His Messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, that those errors that we do accidentally, that we didn't intend to do, what has happened from us without intention, accidentally, Allah will forgive. He is most merciful in this regard. Similarly, what we have done through forgetfulness, if we have forgotten to do a duty, Allah will not hold us to account for it. Similarly, what we have been forced to do, which we have no control over. These are the circumstances of our lives which are beyond our control. Accidental error, forgetfulness, things which we have no choice in doing or not doing, forced circumstances. These circumstances Allah has forgiven for the believers. Allah does not hold them to account because they are part of the destiny of God. In our lives, destiny operates. Things happen beyond our control. We forget things not by choice. And sometimes we find ourselves in circumstances where we're forced to do things. We have no choice in the matter. Allah does not hold us to account for those things. This is the mercy of God. So, practically speaking, if we make mistakes, we're not held to account for it, as long as they are genuine mistakes. That is, something happens, we make a mistake in an area where we had no opportunity to gain knowledge. See, a circumstance where we had the opportunity to gain knowledge about it, but we just ignored that opportunity. And we went ahead and did something and then found out that it was wrong. We made this mistake. Now we're in a different situation from one who had no knowledge and had no opportunity for knowledge. Ignorance before the law is not an argument. If we make a mistake which could have been avoided, in the sense that we had the opportunity to gain knowledge or to stop this situation, and we didn't take that opportunity, then we are still accountable for our mistakes. This is why the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, told us that seeking knowledge is compulsory for every Muslim. Ignorance is not an excuse where we have an opportunity to have knowledge. Also, if we are forgetful, not due to negligence on our part. For example, if we don't set the clock before we go to bed at night, and we miss the morning prayer. If not setting the clock was accidental, we forgot to set the clock, then missing the morning prayer is something which we're not held to account for. We do it when we awaken. However, if we knew about setting the clock and we didn't set the clock, saying, well, if I get up, I get up. If I don't, I don't, and we oversleep, then that state of forgetfulness, because we're in a state of sleep, we're in a state of forgetfulness. We now have no consciousness over our systems, our bodies. We now are held to account for that circumstance because it wasn't accidental. It wasn't true forgetfulness. In a state of sleep, of course, we're not conscious of what is going on around us. But why are we in that state? Because we deliberately did not set our forgetfulness. And we should not make forgetfulness a norm, a habit, an excuse for not doing what we're supposed to do in our lives. Oh, I forgot. It's very easy to say, I forgot. Why? Because we didn't take the deliberate steps to remember. We're given an assignment instead of recording and being aware of what we have to do. So we have some means of reminding ourselves. We just say, okay, but no effort is made to record it. And then when the time comes, we haven't done it, we say, oh, I forgot. Logically, we know this kind of forgetfulness due to negligence is not really acceptable excuses. And similarly before God, where forgetfulness is due to our negligence, this is not acceptable. But where we have genuinely forgotten something, as we are human beings, genuinely forgetting, these circumstances are forbidden by God, are forgiven by God. Also in our lives, we find ourselves forced. This is elaborated in a case where one of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, Ammar ibn Yasir, on one occasion did not show up to the circle of the Prophet. The Prophet had a circle in which he taught his companions. One occasion, the Prophet noticed that Ammar wasn't present. So he asked some of the other companions to go and find out what happened to him. Was he sick? Whatever, what's the circumstance? So they came and they informed that Ammar deliberately didn't show up because there was a problem. So he asked that Ammar be brought to him. So Ammar came at the command of the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him. And he asked him, what's the problem here, Ammar? Ammar told him that he had been tortured by his masters. He was still a slave. He had accepted Islam, but his slave masters were pagans. And they had tortured him, asking him or demanding of him to reject, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, as a messenger, to say that he was a magician, that his gods were really Allat and Uzza, the false gods that the pagans worshipped. They tortured him. And in the time of torture, Ammar said what they asked of him. But he felt so bad, felt so much remorse, that he felt shy to come in the presence of the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, again after having said those things. So the Prophet asked him, Ammar, what was the state of your faith at the time? How was your heart? How did you feel your faith? He said, when I said these things, my heart was still filled with faith. I didn't believe these things. Then the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, told him, if they do to you what they did again, then say what you said. This is Islam. In the time of dire necessity, the forbidden becomes permissible. You're starving to death, as Allah said. Though we are forbidden to eat pork, to drink alcohol, we may eat, we may drink, to preserve our lives. This is lesser of two evils. The greater evil is the loss of life. To preserve it, we may do that lesser evil, eating of pork or drinking alcohol, saying certain things which we don't really believe, to protect our life. Permissible. So God doesn't hold us to account for such a circumstance. However, this doesn't mean that we may go overboard after we have eaten a little, which is enough to preserve our lives. Then we find it's very tasty, so we continue to eat more. No. What was enough to preserve our lives is what is permissible. And to preserve our life again, or the life of our loved ones, we're not allowed to go and take other people's lives. Somebody puts a gun to your child's head and say, if you don't kill that neighbor, we'll kill your child. No, it's not permissible now. The evil, the wrong that we may do should only be evil which affects ourselves alone. It doesn't go beyond ourselves to others. In such circumstances, God is most merciful if we have no other choice. And this is the mercy of Islam. It has a certain amount of flexibility where things are beyond our control. So, dear viewers, the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, has reminded us that we should not fall into despair if we have genuinely made mistakes, forgotten things that we should have done, or were forced to do things. God is most merciful. Allah will forgive us. With that, dear viewers, I bid you all farewell. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The prophets, Islam was his only goal.